So we made it to episode 2 of how we do it without even being canceled. I'm Shawn from SBSolo, and today we're going to get into making some profile soft jaws, how I designed the profile of the soft jaw to probably get the best part, probably is the key word. And then we're going to cut those soft jaws on the machine, and then I'm going to prove out the whole part, filming that and documenting it. And just like episode 1, I'm going to throw some tips in there. Hopefully you guys get some value out of it. And if not, you get to watch a machining video, which is always good. With that, let's just jump right into it. All right, here we go. This is the part we're going to be doing. You see, it's pretty nice profile shape. Looks like a butterfly, kind of, going around the profile there. So there's 2 ways to do this. You can either just create the exact same profile on the outside of the part, or you can designate where you want it to clamp. Okay, so this is what it would look like inside the soft jaws. So you can see the soft jaws are cut at exactly the same as the part. So what could happen is if you drive an end mill into a corner like this, all of a sudden this whole radius is almost being touched by the end mill, versus if I was going down through the wall, it's only being touched by a little bit of the end mill. So it'll actually want to push away from your part. And if you've profiled parts before or did spring cuts, you'll always notice that you cut more out of the really tight corners every time it goes around, because it's kind of bumping into it and sometimes harmonicking or getting chatter, but mostly it's just getting pushed. It's pushing the end mill away. With the machine not being as accurate, or the machine having an accuracy, if you're running the feed rate too fast, you'll have interference right there. So the soft jaw will then protrude right here, and the part itself will protrude into it. So when you clamp like that, you're going to get little pinch points, and then those pinch points will turn black because it's just holding right there, and it's just trying to get out as it's vibrating. And if you're roughing, you can get away with it if you have a part that doesn't need to be superficially, good looking on the outside. But if you're trying to get the best fitment with the best accuracy and the nicest looking part, you want to dictate where those, clamp points are at. So now I have a profile that I've designed myself to eliminate those pinch points. And you can see right here, if we look into it a little closer, I've made this arc a little smaller on the soft jaw, I made this arc bigger on the soft jaw, eliminated the center. And let's go through why I did that. If I was to just regularly have soft jaws cut to the exact profile, I'd have to keep on opening my cutter comp up before it slips in. So let's just say this little area right here that was pinching was 2 thou interference. Well, I'd have to open that up 2 thou my cutter comp, and now everything else is going to be big, and so it's not going to cut right. It's not going to clamp right. So what I've done here is on the sides, I left a little bit of a gap on the side. It's about 1.5 thou. That usually works pretty good. You can maybe do 2 thou, but I'd rather keep it to 1 thou to 1.5 thou. So I opened up this radius, so it's not touching the radius right here. I left this here because my main points of contact I want to do is between here and here, here and here, 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 here. So I'm pinching in basically 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. I opened up this radius on the soft jaw, much bigger, so it doesn't even come close to clamping here. I opened this up, and then I also took out the high point right here. So right in the quadrant, usually if your machine switches the axes, when it has to go the other way, you either can get a bump or problems. If this soft jaw was cut a little more, which usually it is, this profile right here will be smaller on the soft jaw, so then it'll actually want to hit right in the center right here and pinch. So I eliminate that, so I'm forcing it to pinch right here and right here. You can see I brought this down as a tangent. I come across here, I just left it open because there's no clamping right here. I'm not clamping between this. I'm clamping between here and here, so there's no reason to have anything here. Also, if you open up the soft jaw, you're going to have issues if you bring the material in of the soft jaw. You just want the vise to open up, and then the part can just slip right out. So hopefully by the end of this video, we're going to have a part that actually looks good, doesn't have any pinch marks or just bad looking marks on the outside of the profile. Being aluminum, it is kind of tricky because it can get damaged, and it does like to work its way out. So yeah, with that, let's just jump right into cutting these soft jaws, and I'll walk you through that, and then we'll walk through the process of cutting this Op.2. We're proving it out, not setting it up for anything like high production. We're just going to use one vise and hammer that out. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so we picked our soft jaws out. We've got them loaded up on the vise, and now we have to cut the soft jaws. So what I like to do Well, first off, you can't just tighten these tight like this because you have to leave a gap to grab onto the part. So what I like to do is take these thin parallels, they're about 30 thou each, and then I stick them in here like so, and then you can clamp on that. And then that gives you that little bit of gap to cut and then grab onto the part. Sometimes you can double them up if you think the gap's a little too small, but honestly, I don't think it's that big of an issue. I wouldn't make them any bigger than 60 thousandths gap because your chips will fly in there and then you'll have a hard time blowing them out. I used to do them 1/8 inch wide for the 1/8 inch parallels, but I don't like that because my chip breakers, they pack chips in there and just harder to blow. So these keep it a lot easier to blow your chips out. So one other little trick too is that when you put these in here at the bottom, you know how vices are, they tend to kick up like that, just like soft jaws in a lathe, they'll kick out. And so if you're trying to get the best fitment that you possibly can on a part that maybe pops out on you or something like that, raise this up to just below the maximum Z depth of your tool, clamp it, so that way it's mimicking where the part is when it's being clamped. So when the jaws clamp like this, you cut your soft jaws. When you release, the actual wall will kind of tip in like that. So when you put the part in, it'll hit the top and then go level like that when it clamps. So it's a little bit better registry. So hopefully that makes sense. It did to me in my brain, but you know, that's why we do visual. All right, let's clamp these up. And do you guys know why they call these soft jaws? It's because the material's soft enough to cut into. But there is one time when you do want to call them hard jaws, and that's when they're dropped on your foot. All right, so let's start cutting some soft jaws. First, I'm just plunging in, ramping in with a rougher end mill. I like to ramp in, it's just easy to do, usually like 4 degrees, keep it safe. Dynamic tool pass is what I'm using here. I just use the standard defaults that I have set up, so I don't try and rough super fast when I'm doing soft jaws. I just use the standard defaults, that way I can just get it done, let it run without any worries. So you can see there, Tennessee floor finish. And that is the roughing stage done. I leave about, I would say 30 on the walls, 20 to 30 on the walls and about 5 to 10 on the floors. You can see it's cleaning up the floor right now with a finisher. I clean up the floor because if you rough too hard, you'll get rippling on the bottom surface. And if you tap your parts in, you could actually get that indented into your aluminum parts. So I always cut the floor really nice and flat. That way it lays pretty flat. And then I come around and surface or profile the outside. I usually do 2 loops, leave about 1 thou in between, and then a spring cut. So I want those soft jaws to be perfect when I go to measure or, you know, put the part in to make sure they're perfectly perfect to size. So I like to chamfer the tops of my jaws so that way the part can slip in really nice and you don't have that sharp edge, cut yourself on or anything like that. You can see the walls look really good, the floor looks really good. I always use a pretty slow feed rate around the outside profile, so that way when I try and slip the part in, it doesn't leave marks. This part doesn't fit very good, so it looks like I'm gonna have to adjust the cutter comp a little bit. All right, we just ran our soft jaw program and it is a little tight on the part. So we're gonna go down to, let's see, diameter 35, put in -0.0005 tenths. That will give me 5 tenths bigger on the wall, and it should just barely slip. I don't want it to fall in, I just want it to slip. So whenever you do soft jaws, put cutter comp in your finish contour profile. That way you can adjust it and just make sure that it's a nice tight fit. All right, let's throw some parts in. Op2, put these in like that. Yeah, those are pretty solid, so when I tap them, they don't really bounce back. I can't hear a ring, so I probably don't need to use a dead blow. But it's kind of like a habit, just for my own hearing, you know, just see if it's actually sitting flat on the soft jaw. So, all right, here we go. First tool. All right, so we're profiling the outside. If you notice, we're gonna cut this corner off. It's gonna fly off there, right there. If my carrier was any thicker, I probably wouldn't do that because it could jam up the auger or it could break a tool. Knowing that I can get away with it, I do it because it's faster. I don't have to rough the corner into chips, but if it was any thicker, I would probably have to rough the corner into chips. And also, if you notice the dynamic cutting one direction, for this later on for production, I'm probably gonna make that go zigzag. Aluminum, you can do zigzag. If it was super deep, you may have to slow down the conventional side of things when it goes conventional cut, but for the most part, it's faster than just going one direction and speeding over, especially on my older machine. So there we go, we have the roughing op done. I leave about 30 thou on the walls and about 10 thou on the floor. Depends what kind of job it is, but aluminum is usually a pretty good number. I step up 100 thou, 125, depending on what I'm doing. So let's go into tool number 2. So tool number 2 just decks the top and decks the 2 ears. That's all it does. So this next tool is a bullnose mill with a 0.125 radius on the corners, 1/2 inch end mill. And it's going around the profile so I can give a nice fillet on the bottom of the floor and the walls. All right, so the chamfer mill is done. I chamfered 4 of these holes and I chamfered these and the outside edge. If you notice, I did not chamfer that hole right there, and that's because the chamfer mill would hit against that, and since it has a fillet against the wall on the floor, it's better to use a ball end mill. It'll look cleaner. The ball end mill actually cuts all the way up the flute, or the chamfer mill will stop right there and you don't have any, I mean, you can cut a little bit, but it's going to drag on the outside shank. All right, I just cut the center trough out, this big radius right here. I basically just used a big large ball end mill, and that's what I did. I shoved it through there. I took a semi-finish, a finish, and then a spring cut. All right, so now I'm cutting the scallops on the side. It's kind of the preference of the customer that I'm doing work for. They like the look of it. And then I'm deburring the edge here with a nice flow line tool path, so that way there's no sharp corners on the part. All right, so after it does these scallops, it's actually gonna come in and spot face that hole. You'll see it real fast. You're right here. Just plunge it real quick. Go to the other side. That's what it looks like. All right, so this part's almost done. We're using the form tap right now. Then it'll be fully complete. Hopefully I don't drop it when I pull it out, you know. I can only hide so many parts from the boss before he starts to suspect something. All right, so there we go. So yeah, I typically try and deburr all my parts in the machine. I don't want to use a ring around tool. That's for you machining at school. If you guys saw episode 3 of Impractical Machinist, ring around tool. I call it a whirly bird actually. But anyway, if I was to cut this, I could scratch the part. And yeah, I just rather just deburr everything on the machine itself. You have those scallops in there. All right, so look at this. You can actually see where the soft jaws were touching there. Just a little bit of a witness right there in the front. Just a little bit right here. Very hard to see. So with anodizing, you're not even going to see that. You can see this one a little bit more. With good jaws and cleaning your jaws out when you load it, you're not going to get a lot of marks on your part. And yeah, customer will like it better. It should go away with anodize, just from the etching. There you go. That is how we make jaws and finish an Op.2 part. All right, we made it through another episode of How We Do It. And if you actually skipped to the end just to see if I made a good part, I did. I actually made a good part. I hope you guys learned something. If you didn't, I'm sorry. You don't get a refund, but we'll do better next time. So until the next one, you'll find me on the next Practical Machinist YouTube series episode. All right, later guys.